Manoj is equity strategist from ETX Capital. Manoj, great to see you. Okay, 2010, more of the same?
I think so, Rishaad. I certainly think so for the first quarter. If we look at where we've been this year, no one would have thought that the equity market would have recovered so far. And it's been primarily commodity-led. It's been fund-driven. So all these stimulus funding that's gone into the economy has pushed the equity market higher. And I think we're going to see a continuation in the first quarter of 2010. After that, it starts to get maybe a little bit dicier because we've got the spectre of rising interest rates on the horizon there as well, whereby equities become less appealing, and we've got to basically start looking at more defensive sectors in order to protect capital.
You mentioned liquidity out there, and you mentioned all these funds, stimulus funds here as well. So when we see equity, if we see exit strategies here, is that when equities take the hit?
That's pretty much the case. Once the funding dries up, and let's not forget that a lot of the funding that's been pumped into the banks has gone to the trading desks, has gone to the institutional side. But once that funding dries up, then we start to see that the equity rally runs out of steam. What we need to see is further volume coming into the equity market. But yeah, I'm of the opinion that any further higher, the FTSE gets up to around about 6,000. It looks overdone. It needs a pullback, but that pullback may not be a bad thing in the long run.
Yeah, Manoj, I mean, you almost talk about fundamentals here. Why don't you put your technical analysis hat on now and go through some of the major markets. Tell us which ones are the most susceptible to a fallback in the new year.
Well, I certainly think the FTSE is, because it's been very strongly commodity and oil driven. I think going into the second quarter, possibly into the third quarter next year, we start to see those markets become a lot more volatile. We start to see metal prices come back off, oil price maybe come back off beneath $70, maybe beneath $60 as well. And these oil stocks, which have had a fantastic run, start to come back off as well. So I think the FTSE is vulnerable as well. I think the S&P will be fairly resilient. It's a broader index, but then you look at something like the Dow Jones, it's a lot more narrow, and that looks like it could come back off as well.
Yeah, I mean, Dow, what, 19% up so far this year. Could we see more of the same, or, you know, we're going to have limited returns?
I think we're going to have limited returns. It's been a fantastic year. No one would have expected it, but the upside potential seems to be limited. I think the next 3 months, Rishaad, will be fantastic, though. I think there's decent returns to be had. I think we're going to see a broad rally. We're going to see a rally in commodity stocks over the next 3 months, in defensive stocks as well. Utility stocks have been doing particularly well, and I think they're going to continue to do well because they are cash rich, low in debt, and they pay a decent yield as well. So I think we're going to see a broad rally, but then we need to take money off the table and start looking at alternative assets.
Yeah, one company in the news today that we've been following is Glencore, very close to an IPO. You're saying the commodity prices could keep rising here, so would they wait, do you think?
Well, that's what they're looking to do. I think they'll wait for commodity prices to continue rising before they float the company. Now, they're looking to do this convertible bond issue. It's one step closer to doing an IPO, and it's a huge IPO valued at around about $35 billion. And in a year of purely rights issues, you can count the number of IPOs on one hand, literally. This is fantastic news coming at the end of 2009. But I think Glencore will wait. They'll time the market according to commodity prices, and we'll wait for a decent level in commodities before they do float the company.
Yeah, 7 minutes to go before equity markets do open today, Manoj. But it's going to be a light session. But, you know, these equity markets have had this volatile and, upward move this year. This year, and the currency market has been really characterized by a weakening dollar, which has turned around in recent weeks. What are the prospects for the greenback looking ahead?
Well, I think longer term, I think the dollar will get stronger. I was listening to your guest that you had on previously, and I'm inclined to agree with him. I think there is underlying strength in the dollar. In the short term, I think the dollar is overbought at these levels. It's had a great run in the last couple of weeks or so. It looks overbought. I'd expect a small retracement. So for sterling to get stronger, a little bounce back in the euro as well, possibly back up to the late 140s, maybe around the 150 level. But then for dollar strength to return early in the new year, and we could see the dollar increase quite nicely. Certainly, if the US starts to increase rates before we do in the UK, or before the ECB does, then we could see a strong move up for the dollar.
Manoj, what are you hoping for Christmas?
A Nintendo Wii would be fantastic.
Thanks a lot for that.
Cheers,
Manoj Ladwa there. Have a great, happy Christmas and New Year there.